Oh, hi! I didn't see you there. What are you doing in my house? I've just picked up a new hobby, language learning. You see, I've noticed on my last 3 videos that I've spoken a different language, and I've done it flawlessly. You could tell by the subtitle. So I figured I'd learn from the languages I descend from. Let's try Italian. Il film originale di Disney Channel era il pezzo del cinema. Whatever that means, I completely agree with it. Okay, that wasn't too bad. Let's try German again. Klavierschratzenperrung Gefotweiner Point. Clearly, I know what I'm doing. Now, let's swing for the fences. I don't descend from this, but I've always wanted to try. I'm gonna speak Japanese because that's such an easy language to learn. Here we go. Super Mario World. Okay, either that's in English, or I know Japanese. I don't think that says Super Mario World. Oh man, here we go. Do you ever get stage fright just by looking at a game? Theater life isn't for me. Super Mario World genuinely needs no introduction. Just like Mario 3, this game has left such an outstanding legacy in both gaming and in the Mario series. And that gives me so much unique stuff to talk about for this game. It's a good thing that no one else has ever talked about it. Okay, in my defense, similar from my reasons I wanted to talk about the first Mario game, there's not that many videos on Mario World that are from within the past decade. I mean, like, there's a handful to be sure, but surprisingly, there's even less than the first game. Which confused me at first until I put together that there is just kind of a common understanding that Super Mario World is one of the best games in the franchise, and platform in total. Yeah, we're really going 2 for 2 on this one, but it's true. Super Mario World set another standard in the world of gaming. Not just because it's a genuinely well-designed game, though that certainly helps it, but this would be the first game that Nintendo would ever release during the 16-bit generation of gaming. The Genesis had a 2-year head start, leaving everyone asking, what's Nintendo gonna do about it? Well, that's certainly something. The Super Nintendo would release in Japan in 1990 under the name Super Famicom, with it releasing in North America in 1991, and across the board, this is an incredible upgrade from the NES on a number of levels. The graphical detail you could get on here was unthinkable, and the sound quality? Oh man, when you get a good composer, music on the Super Nintendo just hits so differently. Want proof? Listen to any and all music from Final Fantasy on this console. This certainly made for good competition against the Sega Genesis. While there will always be debate between these consoles, I don't think it's too controversial to say that the Super Nintendo, at least technically speaking, was the superior console. It's just a shame that the console has a real face for radio. Yeah, I'll be blunt, I don't like the design for the Super Nintendo. It's honestly one of the ugliest consoles I've ever seen. The gray matte finish, the blocky design, these purple switches that stand out like sore thumbs that are also purple. I'll always take the Super Famicom's design by comparison. It's nothing too crazy, but the sleeker look does fit it a lot better in my opinion. The same goes for the cartridges. I like the way these guys look a lot better. But why in the hell are there no end labels? This is something I don't get with the Famicom lineup. No end labels on either original or Super Famicom games. That was only when it came over to America. I mean, sure, the cartridges were uglier, but at least I could read it on the shelf. Like, what's this game supposed to be? Oh right, the game I'm talking about! Mario World would take 3 years to make. From what I've researched, its development started probably somewhere around 1987, which was also the same time they were making Mario 3. Jeez, acting a little Sega there, Nintendo. Miyamoto would go on to say that he felt the game was a little rushed towards the end of development, which, if I'm being honest, does not really show at all in the final product. I'm sorry, what's your excuse? There was a desire to make this game even bigger than Mario 3, creating a large, sprawling world to explore with tons of secrets and surprises waiting around every turn. I think Nintendo was seeing the growing competition with Sega and wanted to make sure that this game was as impressive as it possibly could be. I mean, in Japan there wasn't that much competition with the game releasing in November of 1990, but it would take close to a year for it to be released internationally. By that time, the Genesis was killing it in sales, and come June of 1991, the Spawn was born. Yeah, all eyes were on the Blue Man, leaving people to wonder if Mario could compete. That reminds me, hindsight is really funny. Mario World would be launched with the Super Nintendo as a pack-in title, low-key making it the reason that many people had bought the system. It worked in 1985, and it would work again 6 years later, selling 20 million copies. I will say right off the bat that Mario World is definitely more a case of refining and improving on what was done previously, instead of trying to reinvent the wheel. Which I know to some might seem a bit lacking, considering that Mario 3 was such a massive leap for the series. But holy shit, Mario World does so much right. Allow me to no longer make my feelings for this game secret, despite them being shared by many others. I'm unique and special. Mario World is one of my favorites. There's a lot that this game does so well from the previous game. While Mario 3 is the game that set the standard for the series, World is what elevated it to an even higher status. Even if it does admittedly strip back a few elements that make Mario 3 so fun to begin with, but I'll get into the specifics more as we go along. As for the plot, well, there it is, all one paragraph of it. Mario and Peach decided to have a picnic in a place called Dinosaur Island, and Bowser was like, "No guards? Hell yeah!" and snatched up Peach, leaving Mario to chase them, and I guess Bowser saw that there were some castles here for some reason, and told the Koopalings to take them, and do you really care that much about this? Mario's still not and will never be that deep in terms of story. You know what you're gonna get, and it's not worth going into that much detail about it. I guess I wish there was just a bit more flair or presentation behind it. We start the game up and the universe just tells us, save Peach, pick up the milk on your way home. If Miyamoto felt that this game was rushed towards the end, I'm gonna guess this was one of the victims of that. I imagine there was probably meant to be an opening cutscene to this game explaining all of this, probably similar to what the likes of the Game Boy Advance version got, which I'll say right off the bat, no, I did not play much of this game for this video. It's by and large the exact same game with worse colors and sound. I didn't feel like doing a whole second playthrough with a worse version. It's perfectly playable, but you can get access to the original much easier, and it's just the overall better version. Do the math. Okay, but let's get into the real meat of the game. Super Mario World, by and large, plays just like the previous games. That's something I admittedly like about playing these games in a row. I don't have to re-explain the mechanics of an already simple control scheme. Although now that we're on the Super Nintendo, we do have more buttons to work with a much more comfortable button layout. Oh man, I may have some issues with this controller's size because, well, look at that. But the button layout is much nicer than it was on the NES controller. So much so that it created the standard button layout for most controllers even to this day. Being able to set my thumb on the run button and have the rest of it hit the jump just feels so natural. Although in Mario World's case, the only new button being used is A, as it lets us do a spin jump that destroys smaller enemies and blocks like it's nothing, and even lets us bounce on some hazards like thwomps, piranha plants, and even some spikes. It's not the best move to use when attacking if I'm being honest, but the fact you can avoid damage on almost anything is insane, to a point where the spin jump would unfortunately get nerfed in later entries. The only other difference in Mario's control is his jump isn't quite as floaty or go as high, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Mario's control has been fine-tuned even more than last time, to a point where this is honestly the best Mario has ever controlled, dead serious. Other games control great, but Mario World gives me just enough control of my movement without feeling slippery, and enough resistance without it feeling stiff. It's the best aspects of Mario 1 and 3's controls rolled together to make this, and with that good control comes even better levels than before, and the way they're presented to us is even better. Instead of 8 individual worlds like previously, Super Mario World gives us a world, and then Mario took it over. This is one of the coolest aspects of this game. Each area is interconnected to make one large world to explore. You start off on Yoshi's Island, or as the wiki page calls it, America. Okay, welcome to the US. This is America. Then you have Donut Plains, Vanilla Dome, Cheese Bridge, Butter Bridge, Cookie Mountain, Soda Lake, the Forest of Illusion. I wonder what that tastes like. You got Chocolate Island, and then you end off with the world of Bowser. Now, I don't know why they went with the food theme, but it does help me remember some of these places a little easier. That, and it also means that the game can be made with your very own household goods. And that's how I made my first video game. The large overworld really helps making the game's environment feel more immersive. There's a lot to discover when exploring the stages. The fact that the game takes place on an island does mean that the more distinct world themes from 3 are gone, And I would be lying if I said Dinosaur Island was as visually interesting across the board. It really isn't until we get to the Forest of Illusion and Chocolate Mountain when we get to see some more unique locales. But I don't think it's a bad thing since the stages don't really hold themselves down to one certain theme. It keeps you on your toes and it makes it fun to see what new environments will be brought into. The levels are what you'd come to expect from the Mario series up to this point, but now they're just way bigger and filled with a lot more secrets. I'm not kidding, just look at the sheer size of these levels compared to the previous games. The shorter and more concentrated level design from 3 has been replaced with much longer levels filled with more intricate set pieces. This is made more apparent with Mario World being the first game in the series to have visible checkpoints, and depending on how far in the level you cross, it gives you an idea as to how long the total level could be. One thing you might notice is that some levels are marked with a yellow circle and others are marked with a red one. Yellow levels are normal, but the red levels have an additional exit for you to discover that takes you off the beaten pathway, and more often than not, the first thing you'll find in these exits are the switch palaces. You may occasionally see the outline of a block in a level, and when you activated the designated switch palace, those outlines get replaced with blocks. More often than not, these will just make future hazards easier, like covering up bottomless pits, blocking certain enemies like thwimps, and leading us to even more secrets and alternate exits. It is strange how only a couple of them give you items while others don't react at all. Speaking of items, the one thing you'll notice is that the large selection of power-ups from Mario 3 has almost entirely been gutted from this game. We're back down to 4, with the Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Starman returning. And yeah, it does seem like a massive downgrade at first. I mean, the last game let you throw hammers. You can't do that in real life without the consequences. Yeah, the selection we had in the last game was fantastic. But I think you'll be fine when you see it was replaced by the best damn power-up in the series, the Cape Feather. Yes, this is the only new power-up added, and this cape gets Mario laid.
I burn for you.
For one, you get a spin attack similar to the Raccoon Leaf, but it lets you spam it going insanely fast. Enemies don't stand a chance when you do this, they drop like flies. If I had to guess, Mario's been training. This is not an easy move to pull off, I've tried.
This is why Mom doesn't fucking love you.
And if that wasn't good enough, when you build up enough speed and jump in the air, you can use the cape to fly. The controls are a little strange at first. You have to press the opposite direction on the D-pad as you're descending, and yeah, it's a bit to wrap your head around. Don't worry, I double majored for a reason. But when you get the hang of it, you can basically fly over entire levels. It breaks any challenge this game had into pieces. I love the Cape Feather, but I totally get why it wasn't brought back. The ability to fly in these levels takes away any and all fun you can have while playing them. So I'd say if you get the Cape Feather, use the flight sparingly. But the one thing that does come back in later games is your new animal companion Yoshi making his debut in the series. You see, when Bowser reached the island, he trapped all the other Yoshis into eggs and put them into blocks, because even a tyrant like Bowser won't murder. See, it's not murder, it's manslaughter. Yoshi more or less acts like an additional power-up for the game. You can ride on top of him and make him eat fruit that's in the stage to get an additional power-up, and he can also eat enemies by sticking his tongue out. And all that done with Mario smacking Yoshi on the head. What the fuck, Mario? Why you gotta be so violent? Letting out that Italian rage, aren't you? But don't you worry, the abuse doesn't stop there.
Why did I sound proud of that?
Because you can jump off of Yoshi to get extra height, and when you're about to fall into a pit, well, long live the plumber. I will say it's weird not having Yoshi's flutter jump, as I keep forgetting that he wouldn't get that until his own game, Yoshi's Island. But in this game, there's plenty to him besides that, and that comes in the form of the Koopa shells. There are now 4 different colored Koopas you can find in the stages, and depending on said color, Yoshi will have a different effect. Green shells act normal when you spit them out. Red shells have you spit fire. What? How did that happen? Maybe because that is one spicy Koopa.
We've shared love and made love.
The yellow Koopa gives Yoshi a shockwave whenever you land from a jump, but the most useful is the blue shell, as it gives you a pair of wings and lets you fly. Do they just want us to skip levels? Because it really feels like they do. Oh, but it doesn't stop there, as you can get similarly colored Yoshis that give you the special ability regardless of what shell they eat. God, I fucking love this game. I feel like every time you think you've seen the height of something, it just keeps building on itself. Evolution is the best word to describe this game. Sorry, Christians. And I'm guessing the enemies evolved from their base form as well. Yeah, I already mentioned that there are different colored Koopas, but now there is an alternate version of each returning enemy. Goombas? Well, okay, they've actually just been replaced with Galoombas, which I'm guessing are just Goombas if their life was in shambles. Or not, a beard can mean anything. Independence, individuality, attention seeking, it can mean anything. They're the only ones that are different from before, as a jump won't kill them. You have to pick them up and throw them at other stuff, which is fine in my opinion. I love how snappy it is, and the ability to now throw stuff above you makes him way more versatile. We got new faces like the Wigglers, which are pretty annoying to deal with. You got Monty Moles, Sumo Brothers, Mega Moles, Bonsai Bills. You got Chargin' Chucks that are all sports themed and take 3 hits to kill. I've been telling you for years, Chuck, you peaked in high school. Fishbones, or just dead fish. Why? Oh, speaking of dead things, Boo Ghosts are back alongside Big Boo, and now they have their own dedicated level type, the Ghost Houses. These are like puzzle versions of the castle stages where you have to think outside the box in order to find your way out. Usually it's not too bad, but finding the secret exit can take a bit of brain power to figure out. And yeah, every ghost house has a second exit, and while some of them you may find by accident, others not so much. The alternate exit in Donut Plains' house tripped me up the first time, since you basically have to fly into what looks like certain death and take the upper path to the exit. The annoying part is you need the cape feather in order to find it, and this stage doesn't give you the power up, meaning that you have to go to a previous level just to get it, and then come back and try again. Thankfully, you can exit previously completed levels after you get the power up just by hitting start and select, but this is something about some of the secrets in Mario World that does get pretty annoying. More often than not, you'll need either Yoshi or the cape feather in order to reach the alternate exit, and if you lose them before that point, you have to go all the way back to another level just to find them and try it all over again. Thankfully, this is somewhat circumvented when you get to the alternate exit in the Donut Ghost House I mentioned, as it takes you to the top secret area. It's just 5 blocks. You can get a Yoshi, 2 capes, or 2 fire flowers. This basically cuts down the need to hunt in other levels, and it's a great way to restock, but you do end up having to backtrack in order to get them if needed, which can get a little tedious. It is worth it though, since alternate exits open up new levels to play, and after a while, it'll open up a passage to the Star Road, a group of 5 special levels that require you to find their secret exit in order to proceed. Beat all of these and it leads you to the special world, housing the 8 hardest levels in the game, and that's no hyperbole. These stages can get really tough, if not because of the precise platforming or onslaught of enemies being thrown at you. It's stuff like this in the stage called Gnarly, like what even is this? It's not impossible, I should clarify, it's just compared to the rest of the game, it definitely puts you to the test. Beat this world and you can return to the first area, seeing that everything is now an autumn theme, and the enemies are even dressed up in Halloween costumes. That's actually really cute. I like the piranha plants being jack-o'-lanterns, and the bullet bills are now pigeons who have seen the end of days. What is going on with their face? What are they seeing? This all gets topped off with a final showdown against Bowser in his castle. Just real quick, I prefer the castle stages here so much more than in Mario 3. They do not require nearly the amount of guesswork that those did. These are straightforward with the appropriate amount of challenge and unique obstacles to dodge, helping them stay fresh. The bosses, on the other hand, well, I guess some things never change, or in this case, they somehow get easier. The Koopalings are a complete joke in this game. There's nothing challenging about any of them. Wendy is the only one that gets a little annoying because the arena is so small. Other than that, nope, not bad at all. Even the original bosses are a cakewalk. Reznor isn't a challenge at all. The Big Boo is pathetically easy. Again, these don't ruin the game or anything, but I do wish there was just a bit more personality out of them. Bowser's level is pretty fun, having a pick your poison type challenge where you select which door to go through, unless you find the secret exit that takes you to the back door. He has a back door? Is he asking to be defeated? I would have loved it if it was actually just a trap and you die instantly by using it. Bowser's fight is pretty fun, you just throw a bunch of Mecha Koopas at him, but you do at least have a chance of getting hit by this boss. But with the final hit, we defeat Bowser, we save Peach, and we meet up with the Yoshis to celebrate another glorious victory. Man, just like last time, what can I really say about Super Mario World? It's kind of the perfect game. There's so much about it that works across the board. The control is damn near perfect. The level design is so much fun and explorative. And above all else, it's just so damn charming. This is the game that I feel really ironed out this series' personality. The expressive world and characters makes playing the game just that much more immersive. Sure, compared to later Super Nintendo games, the graphics are a bit simple, but I feel that simplicity helps show off the capabilities of the console. The music especially helps now that we have better sound quality, and it's all the more impressive that the music is based on the exact same melody. I'm not kidding. The Overworld theme is great, the athletic theme is fun, the underwater track is so serene, and this game has the best damn castle theme in the series. It's so threatening yet ominous, it just fits perfectly. Yeah, the bosses aren't great, and it can admittedly take a little long to complete, but I never get tired of playing this game. I got 96 star on the original cartridge, again on the Switch, and I intend to do it again with the Japanese version. Yeah, I found that I really like collecting international versions of games that I own, and now I own the American and Japanese versions of the first 4 Mario games. That's not hard, mind you. These games are really easy to find, but I think it's a nice novelty. So, fun fact, if you actually want to get into collecting Super Nintendo games, I'd actually recommend throwing in some Super Famicom games as well. It's actually surprisingly cheaper. A cool example, actually, earlier this year, my fiance and I had the chance to go to Japan, and while we were there, she brought me to this used game store in Tokyo, and while I was there, I was able to snag Final Fantasies 4, 5, and 6, Chrono Trigger, Super Mario RPG, and Mega Man 7, all 6 of these for less than $60. For those who don't know how absolutely insane that is, just look up the American prints of these online and see just how much they cost and go, "Ah!" And even better, if you have a Super Nintendo, you can technically play these games on here. The only thing that would stop it is if you look inside the cartridge slot, there would be these 2 plastic divots or pins that would stop the cartridge from going down all the way, which is kind of interesting because I discovered that aspect about the Super Nintendo a couple years ago, but apparently mine were just already ripped out. I guess someone else had the same idea, and I tested it, and it worked out pretty well. So yeah, if you have a Super Famicom cartridge, you can plug it in, and you hit the power. My Super Nintendo doesn't work so well anymore, and if you plug it in, turn it on, that's pretty damn cool. There's not much that's different between the versions, the only caveat being I can't read Japanese, regardless of how hard I try. Though there is one kind of messed up part of this version. In Vanilla Secret 3, you have to ride some dolphins to get to the end, and in the Japanese version, if you're on Yoshi, you can eat them. What the fuck, Japan? Are you letting out some rage too? So aside from the animal abuse, yeah, this game's pretty great. In all seriousness, I love this game, and I think anyone who plays it will too. It sticks to its strengths and delivers it on such a high quality. You know, I'm kind of getting flashbacks to when I ended my initial Sonic revisits, because even more so than those games, Mario World helped define not just a generation, but an entire era of gaming. I'm not sure when I'll get back to the Mario series, but I know when I do, I'm gonna have a good time. That's something I can always rely on Mario to do well. Now, in terms of my ranking of these games, I think I'm on a similar boat as everybody else, but I do want to show off my list, as well as what I think are the best versions of each game to play. The bottom of the list is the Lost Levels. I think most people can agree with that. It's the only game of the bunch to actively detract instead of add. While I do find some enjoyment in how ruthless it is, if I played on original hardware, I'd feel completely differently about it. If you were to play it, do so on All-Stars. That save feature makes it a bit more bearable to get through. Then above that, I'm actually going to put Mario 2 USA. I found I'm actually in the minority of how I feel about this game, but I don't know, I think it's pretty unremarkable. I love how it looks and the character abilities are fun, but I think it's a little too stagnant for its length, and after a while, I do get bored playing it. Although the advanced version does bump it up quite a bit, so if you were to play it, do so on that one. It does honestly create a much better experience playing it. Third place I'd say goes to the original. It's a bit aged and it doesn't have as much compared to its successors, but its simplicity and short length does make it fun to blast through every now and again. And the legacy it created is something that I will always have respect for. Best version is All-Stars, but I feel NES is more than fine as well. Deluxe is a great version too, but it's a little hard to get and the smaller screen does make it a bit more annoying to play, though the extra modes are pretty great. In second, we got Mario 3. It does everything its predecessors did great and adds on top of it with fun levels, great power-ups, and very unique worlds to explore. The only thing holding it back are the auto-scrollers and castle levels. Best version is a bit of a toss-up. I think all of them have their qualities. Original feels the most natural to me, but All-Stars does have the save feature, and Advanced does have more content to play. Any and all are good options. I think it's just a matter of what you prefer. And on top, we've got Super Mario World. I just spent 20 minutes explaining why. I know there's some debate between this and 3, But I feel World irons out all my issues with that game, and it makes it the overall best Mario experience. Best versions on Super Nintendo, no question. I really don't see a reason to get the advanced version. Worse visuals, worse sound, it's a little harder to get, and it doesn't really add that much of real value. It's the weakest of the advanced series for me. But aside from lost levels, you're gonna have a good time with these games regardless of the version. This is just my own personal opinion. If my opinion makes you upset, get therapy. Now, with all that under wraps, I was able to complete everything I wanted to with these games, except for one thing. The Goombas. These little guys have freaked me out for the longest time, and I need to know what they are. And there we go. Alright, this is a good start. A Goomba is a slang term for people of Italian descent, mainly in the United States, with several related connotations to the mafia? Did I do a racism? No, I'm Italian. That's my word. Wait a minute. That means for 4 games, I've been killing members of the mob. Well, it's a good thing I got my trusty hammer here to keep me safe from all possible threats. Oh my god.